back to another installment of our education series here at the Music Connection Lesson Studio in Sycamore, Illinois. My name is Ben Weaver. You're in for a treat today for this education series video. We're going to talk to bass instructor Jonathan Dixit, and he's going to go over what's in his bass bag. So make sure you watch on the screen here. Make sure you take notes. If you want more information about bass lessons with Mr. Jonathan, feel free to give us a call, 815-217-5648. Head over to our website, www.themusicconnection.com. You can also email us here, info@themusicconnection.com, to learn more about bass lessons and all of these things we're about to talk about that are very important for all bass players. So we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So let's go and get started. Jonathan, what's the first thing in your bass bag?
Well, the first thing, Ben, is going to be a tuner. And the reason is you want to be in tune when you're playing with other musicians. You want to be in tune when you practice. You want to be in tune when you learn songs. There's several instances where you will actually need a tuner. One of those is when you replace your bass strings. They're going to need to be retuned and recalibrated several times right at the beginning because the strings are going to be stretching out. You might knock your bass on the ground. You might hit it on a wall. It might knock the tuning pegs around. It's another reason. It's just a very handy thing to be having in your bag. Being in tune and playing with other musicians that are also in tune.
That's great. And if for those that are watching, if you have never played bass, these things are very important. So for anybody that's maybe on the fence about, should I take bass lessons, feel free to give us a call. We always offer a free sample lesson, 15 minutes. So just give us a call, email us, text us, and we'll arrange that free sample lesson with Mr. Jonathan here. And he'll be able to go over all the important fundamentals of playing the bass and help you make sure you know how to use all of these things that we're going to talk about today. All right, so give us a call. We'll be right back.
1, 2, 2, 3.
Okay, so for those that are watching, look on the screen here. From your point of view, do you recognize that image on the screen here? If you can't, it's a metronome. So this is the kind of more traditional metronome that you see on the picture here. That's the next thing that we're going to talk about. So can you go ahead and bring out the metronome in the bag?
Yeah, so I have a slightly different, smaller metronome that does exactly what you need it to do. If you're unfamiliar with the metronome, this is what it does. It keeps time, right? Keeps the rhythm. As a bass player, that is our main function, is to keep the rhythm and keep in time and connect with the drummer. Mm-hmm. By doing that, we allow all the other musicians to not think so much about the rhythm. They can focus on what they're doing. And we can all kind of get together in a big fat groove. Because what we really need to do is keep the rhythm, because we are the rhythm section after all. So using a metronome is going to be crucial in everything you do, whether you're practicing open strings, whether you're intermediate level, whether you're beginner, whether you're expert. You will always have the metronome with you. Whether you're in 4/4, 6/8, 5/4, any of these, this is a very critical thing to have actually in your bag.
And he mentioned bands, so make sure stick around to the end of the video, today's video, because we're going to be demonstrating bass and drums and how important it is to have good time on our instruments, especially when we play with other people. And the metronome is going to help you have good time, steady beat, time keeping, and help you with the subdivided rhythms like triplets, sixteenths, dotted rhythms, odd groupings like fivelets, sevenlets, things like that, which can really take you to that next level. So, go ahead.
Oh, I think it also I think you were going to mention is the house with the kinesthesiology as well.
Yeah, movement.
So when you hear the metronome, you can't help but you move your body You move your feet and you feel the rhythm. Yeah. And that is the essence of music right there. Is that feeling of
steady beat, movement. Yep. All right. So stay tuned. We've got more in the bag, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth, and then we're going to play at the end. So we'll be right back. Okay, next up is the cable. This is so important. Just like a power cable to plug in your computer, this is an audio or instrument cable, and Mr. Jonathan's going to talk about the importance of having a reliable cable.
Yeah, so cables are pretty self-explanatory, but they're very critical in what you for your amplification. So without that, you're going to have, can barely hear it, right? I have to play very, very hard. My fingers can get hurt doing that. But as soon as you plug it in, right, now you hear it and it's booming and it's amplified. Now that is pretty, self-explanatory that you would necessarily need one, but what you might not know is that you should have multiple in your bag. Because these things are not built very well and they tend to break easily. They can get bent, they can get stepped on, you put your bag somewhere, someone might fall into it or sit on it, or things can happen where these things are broken and you'll need one at a gig. It's happened to me several times when I played in Austin, Texas, when I was playing in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. There were several instances where I was saved by the extra cable that I needed.
Yeah. So that's why it's also good to have a bag that's large enough that has an outer pocket or some sort of inner pocket that can hold extra cables. So, Mr. Jonathan here, if you sign up for lessons, he'll give you some good brands, some good types of cables, some good bag brands that are sturdy enough. He'll give you all that information. So feel free to reach out for that sample lesson. And stay tuned. We've got more in store. We'll be right back. Okay, bass strings, so important. Just like new tires on a car, right? Automobile, on a truck. So let's go ahead and talk about why is it important to have extra bass strings in your bag?
Right, so I got little strings right here. I have some bass strings and I have a wire cutter because you need to cut the strings. So over time, your hands will sweat, you get oils on your strings, they'll dull them out. Or they'll get dirty and they won't sound as full as they should. So that's where having a new set of strings in your bag is handy. So then you can replace the strings. It sounds fuller, it sounds fatter, it's got a nice tone to it, or timbre if you will, when you need it. In addition to that, sometimes you break strings. It's not as common as a guitar player, but I've broken my G string several times. That's a little one. So it was nice to be able to replace that on the spot when necessary. And the great James Jamerson said that old strings keep the funk, but I think personally the new strings help your bass get a new life, new lease, a new look, a new feel, a new sound.
That's great. That's great. So, like we've said in the past, all these are fundamental items. Yes. So if you want to have a good sound, have a good experience playing the bass, make sure you check out this video again tomorrow or later this week, and just really make sure you look closely at these items that we're describing, because these will really prepare you to have a good kind of beginner level experience.
And that's the right word, is prepare you. You don't want to be unprepared at a gig or at a lesson or somewhere where you need to actually utilize your instrument and then something happens where you are unable to use it. So it's important, like Ben says, to be prepared to have all these things ready to go. It's insurance, just to have it there.
Yes, it's important to be prepared. All right, we've got one more thing. Stick around. We'll be right back. Buckle up. We've got 3 more. So we're just going to do it in this last segment here. So make sure you pay attention. First, we're going to talk about the bass guitar strap.
Yeah, so seems like a no-brainer to have something like this. And it's true. You should always have a strap because If you want to stand up and play, how would you play without a strap? You'd have to hold it, and not going to work very well, right? But the second I have my strap on, I can now stand with my fellow musicians. I can stand at the gig. And most importantly, I can dance.
Move a little bit. Yep. Yep.
Right? And that could bring us to the next thing, the bass. You need the bass. Obviously, this is a very self-explanatory one, but you need the bass with you at the gig, at the lesson. Because without the bass, everything else we've just talked about is useless. One other thing I want to bring up quick before we move along from the bass is battery. So the bass is powered by a 9-volt battery, and the battery goes out when you least expect it. You could practice all day for 9 hours all day, and then you go to the gig and your bass sounds all like, and then you say, "Wow, what is that sound?" That sound is usually static, and it's usually caused by your bass battery dying, and that is a telltale sign you need to replace your battery. It's crucial to have one. You don't want to be at the gig getting paid, and then you don't have a bass that's functioning.
That's right. That's right. And sometimes at gigs you have to use sheet music.
Right.
So let's say that you're just in a cover band or you're subbing, right? So around Chicago here, there's a lot of cover bands. There's a lot of opportunities. There's original bands, but sometimes you have to use charts and sheet music.
That's
So, that's why it's important to make sure you have, sheet music in your gig bag here, in your bass bag, along with the battery and the tuner, the metronome, the strings, the strap, all the things we talked about. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some ways that we can use the sheet music to help us use all these other items. Could we maybe write down tempos maybe on the sheet music as a reminder?
Of course, you could write. So you could take a piece of sheet music, and if you don't know the sheet music yet, you could set the metronome for a low tempo. You do 70 to 80 beats per minute, and then you could practice it. Say you're practicing Freddie Freeloader, great song, by the way.
Yep.
Let's say you're practicing this, what looks like a jazz blues, perhaps. So you practice it on this day at 80, and then you worked a week and you got up to 90. Now you can keep tracking all that on the sheet music itself, so you can kind of understand where you're at with that. Right?
That's right. So again, that's going back to what Mr. Jonathan was saying about being prepared. So having something to write down the tempos on, that way you can use it at your next practice session or at your gig is so important. So lessons here at the Music Connection, we're definitely going to get you there with preparation, learning how to practice, making sure you have reliable bass equipment, reliable accessories like we've been talking about. So like I said, feel free to reach out for a free sample lesson on us. It's 15 minutes. There's more information on our website, www.themusicconnection.com. You can also learn about, where Jonathan has played. He did mention a couple cities that he's played in here in the United States that he kind of cut his teeth on. He really, he was putting in his time on the bass and really learning the skills necessary to have a good bass sound, to have the right technique. He went to school for music. So he also has that theory knowledge, all that, that kind of pedagogical knowledge that's important to be a good, reliable musician and to be a great teacher too. So feel free to, again, like I said, head over to our website, www.themusicconnection.com to learn more about the studio here in Sycamore, Illinois, and learn about Mr. Jonathan and his background. And you can also reach out to sign up for lessons, learn more about the other teachers we have here. Feel free to head out over there to the website and reach out, and we'll be right back. 1, 2, 3.